This is Pulse 95.
Pulse 95.
It's the Morning Majlis.
Well, yesterday, big news emerged. The National Emergency Crisis and Disaster Management Authority set out the latest nationwide changes and new rules. And under those rules, the UAE will further ease its coronavirus restrictions to allow more people to sit together at restaurant tables and hold larger weddings. And hotels, they will be allowed to run at full capacity. So let's look further into those new rules and guidelines. Now, those include allowing 10 people to sit together at a cafe or restaurant. When it comes to weddings, wedding halls and other events, they can operate at 60% capacity or up to a maximum of 300 people. Those attending must wear masks unless seated and eating. Now, when it comes to malls and shopping centers, they can raise their capacity up to 80%. Although hotels, they can go back to operating at full capacity, they must still maintain precautionary measures, including social distancing. Now, when it comes to cinemas, recreational facilities, galleries, and museums, they will also be allowed an 80% operating capacity. And looking at live events, the operating capacity for the live events is set at 60%, provided that social distancing, mask wearing, and regular sanitization guidelines are still observed.
Yeah, and this comes at a time where, as per the latest figures released by UAE health authorities, we've seen just around 1,410 new cases of COVID-19, and that's the lowest figure since the 20th of May. We're also seeing staggering vaccination rates here, well above 70% in terms of fully vaccinated individuals within the country as well. That has restored confidence and a return to normalcy across the country. Now, the rules, Rana, you had stated, are the federal rules by NCEMA, who said that local authorities in each emirate are now going to be responsible for overseeing and changing the rules as they see fit, which would allow for greater flexibility depending on the situation. For example, we've seen Dubai previously set out different capacity levels and rules for events while enforcing federal rules at the same time, ensuring that masks are worn in all public places. So it's going to be interesting to see the variations and how different emirates apply the rules differently.
Yeah, but the big thing is that people will be finally allowed to host their celebrations. When it comes to events and when it comes to weddings, they were capped around 100 people at the moment, and a lot of people in the country were looking for these celebrations. In fact, over the course of the pandemic, we've seen a lot more couples getting married on our social medias. And
like yourself.
Yeah, such as myself over here. But it was very tactical, though. It was done tactically. As soon as it opened up, I knew that this is the only window, because it seemed that this opening up of these easing up of restrictions was going to be very temporary. It seemed at the start at that time, but luckily it continued, and to an extent that now is going to be 300 people. But it's very strange because speaking of expats at the moment, do you normally have 300 close guests, do you reckon?
No, probably back home, yes.
Yeah. Here,
not even back home. Back home, I would probably invite 200.
Exactly.
250 max.
True.
Yeah. If I want to invite everyone. But I feel nowadays people now understand that you should just invite the closest people to such
gatherings,
ceremonies.
Because it costs per person.
Not just it costs, but now you just understand that you also have to think about your health and safety. A lot of people, they're just now thinking even if, these new guidelines are now being set out, the people are still scared of catching the virus or getting people sick, especially their family members who are older. They're scared for them. So I don't
Yeah,
feel
yeah.
like it's going to be the same anymore.
But you-
Weddings are not going to be the same anymore.
No, definitely not. We're definitely seeing a lot more intimate ceremonies. The
Intimate.
virtual ones, as you had stated, AK. You also have people who still like their lavish weddings and trying to invite as many people as possible. I think Indian weddings in particular, they
Yeah.
tend to get really big here. So
Yeah, because they start to invite the kids and the kids and the kids, and so it has become.
No, it has nothing to do with the kids. I mean, Indian weddings, they should be big. Because
Yeah,
I've been to
that's how
one,
it is,
and I
right?
feel like that is the best part about it, is because it's big and it's lavish and it's active, and it's one of the best weddings you'll ever go to. Yeah. So they're
Well-
meant to be big.
Well, see, this
Yeah.
is what happens. But I think the big news that's going to that it is going to affect is especially the hoteliers. I think they'll feel a bit more like, this is the time to make more of an income, and this is going to be good news for them to be able to operate at their own capacity as well. Well, stay with us on the Morning Majlis. We'll continue the discussions here on the program. Up next, we talk to you about the big event that is set to take place here in the Emirate of Sharjah. What's happening? All of this will be discussed right here on the Morning Majlis.
This is Pulse 95.
Pulse 95.
It's the Morning Majlis. It's the Morning Majlis.
Mark your dates in your diary, 26th to the 27th of September, under the theme Historic Lessons, Future Ambitions. It is going to be the International Government Communication Forum. This was announced by His Excellency Sheikh Sultan bin Ahmed Al Qasimi, who's the chairman of the Sharjah Media Council, that the 10th edition is going to have 7 key pillars, and it is something that we're all very, very excited about. And in fact, it was also one of the first few events that Rania Saadi
Yes.
was on Pulse 95.
That's true. I still remember it. It's amazing. We talked to so many personalities, important people from government entities. It was incredible. And then we had also, I actually spoke, let me remember who I spoke with. I spoke to Raya.
I remember Motaz, who's a very, very prominent speaker. He's a very public speaker. I think it was last year.
Scoop with
Motaz
Raya,
Mashal.
that show. Scoop with Raya. I spoke with Raya
yeah.
herself. Yeah.
We spoke to a lot of
spoke to a
important
lot of
people,
important
and it was
people.
the early days of COVID as well, where people
That's
just
true.
weren't sure how bad it was
Yeah.
going to get. But people
We're
were
like, is it going to go on? Is it not? Yeah, and it was right
Yeah.
in the beginning of it. Yeah,
Yeah, but,
it
really,
went on.
really great. It went through, and it's a great opportunity as well to talk about communication in its various ways as
Yeah.
well. And
Yeah.
it tends to attract people from all kinds of fields, whether it's tech, business, entrepreneurship, and members from government entities as well, who we've had very valuable conversations with.
Yeah, so this year it's coming in its 10th edition, and it's going to be, the 10th edition of the IGCF is going to be on the 26th of September and the 27th of September. So it's a 2-day event. Again, it's going to be organized by the Sharjah Government Media Bureau. And according to His Excellency Sheikh Sultan bin Ahmed Al Qasimi, he did say that the upcoming forum, it comes close on the heels of a global healthcare crisis, obviously, that has underlined the importance of effective government communication. So since early last year, the world obviously has witnessed abrupt transformations that call for the setting up of newer and more flexible communication models, both in terms of tools and response mechanisms as well. So the unfolding crisis also raised several questions on the impact of the existing communication systems on government bodies, also semi-governmental entities and international community organizations. So now, according to His Excellency Sheikh Sultan, he said that we must address how the current realities and past experiences can be utilized to forecast and build the future of government communications. And not only that, but also to prepare relevant stakeholders to keep pace with regional and global transformations as well. So, as you mentioned, Abdul Karim, this edition of the IGCF, it will focus on several main pillars.
Yeah, there's going to be 7 of them. Looking at the historical experience of government communication, it's going to look at the deliberate on the necessity of establishing transformation-ready mechanisms in line with the rapidly changing times. And then we've got a third pillar that's going to analyse government communications responses towards crisis and devise scientific strategies.
Yes, indeed. And it's also going to focus on the relationship between content creators and social media platform. That's the 4th pillar. and will raise questions about who benefits the most from this relationship. It'll also discuss the content creation process and to what extent traditional media can stay relevant and effective within global mass communication media as social media had taken over. Among the other pillars, as well as the future of government communication, its approaches as a scientific field, the various methodologies, and how it can play an effective role in light of the so-called infodemic and the ongoing challenges as well.
Amazing times indeed. We'll be looking forward to taking part in this event, and I'm sure all of you who've been frequent visitors to this grand event would also be looking forward to it. One of the key things that I love about IGCF, apart from the event, is on the sidelines. It usually is the start of good weather. 26th of September and 27th of September, we're hoping that things do get a bit cooler in the United Arab Emirates, and we're looking forward to that as well. Stay with us on the program. We've got the sports headlines lined up for you next, and then we're talking to you about the new service centre in Rahmaniya Mall, how it is going to be a convenient new facility for the Sharjawis and Sharjawiyas. This is the Morning Majlis, only on Pulse 95.
Docks and barrels. This morning's Big Business Recap.
This morning's Big Business Recap, indeed, we're talking about Aramco, their profits soaring, and this is also as a result of the higher oil prices over the past few months. It is the most profitable oil company in the world. Saudi Aramco's profits rose from a year earlier to 95.47 billion riyals. Now, in dollar terms, it is $25.46 billion in the second quarter, as a recovering global economy had been pushing the oil prices up and allowed the kingdom to pump more crude. It represents a 288% increase. It was due to the higher oil prices, supported by easing of COVID-19 restrictions, global vaccination campaigns, stimulus measures, and accelerating activity in the key markets, according to the oil giants in their statement in the Tadawul filing.
Yeah, this announcement comes actually approximately 2 months after the company said that it raised $6 billion from its first dollar-denominated Islamic bond sale, posting earlier this year a 30% jump in first quarter profits. So Aramco, which happens to be the kingdom's cash cow, it said in May that its net profit, it rose to $21.7 billion in the first 3 months of the year alone. And the energy giant, it posted a 44.4% slump last year in its net profit. That's piling pressure on government finances as Riyadh pursues its multi-billion dollar, in fact, project to diversify the economy. And the world's leading oil producers agreed last month to continue to modestly boost output from August, reaching a compromise after the UAE blocked that deal. But an OPEC Plus meeting decided to raise output by 400,000 barrels per day each month starting from August to help fuel the global economic recovery as the pandemic eases as well.
Yeah, and Aramco CEO Amin Nasser said that these results reflect a strong rebound in energy demand around the world. Said there are still some uncertainty right now about the challenges posed by the variants of COVID, but said that Aramco has shown it can adapt swiftly and effectively during those changing market conditions. He also stated oil demand is improving now that major economies are reopening. More vaccines are rolling out as well. And in the past 2 weeks, oil companies like BP PLC, Chevron Corp, and Royal Dutch Shell PLC all said they will increase share buybacks and payouts. They are all confident that the worst of the pandemic is over. But Nasser did say that still the pandemic is, quote, clearly far from over.
Uh-oh.
The pandemic is far from over, of course, and we see that with the situation in China. The cases are rising. The 125 new cases were reported, and as a result, oil prices did take a little bit of a slump because of that little bit of a worrying figure because it is also an increase from another new cases reported a day earlier, which was around 9 in the 90s. So it is something to be concerned about, and I'm sure that they'll be evaluating that, and the oil markets will respond to that growing development. Well, stay with us on the Majlis. Up next, we talk to you about all things Olympics. It's finally concluded. It is a very, very important competition, so we'll be touching upon that as well. Stay with us. This is the Morning Majlis, only on Pulse 95.
This is Pulse 95.
Pulse 95.
It's the Morning Majlis. It's the Morning Majlis.
Oh, what a sad moment yesterday, especially for Barcelona fans, specifically for Lionel Messi fans, because he did break down yesterday in tears as he spoke about his Barcelona exit for the first time at this press conference. And we're talking about a player that had 778 appearances, a staggering 672 goals. 10 league titles, 4 Champions League crowns, and 3 Club World Cups, among 35 other trophies. We're talking about Lionel Messi and him departing Barcelona, sadly, and moving on.
Yeah, this is a pretty heartbreaking video. He's visibly crying uncontrollably as he said goodbye to Barcelona. He said, quote, "This is the end with this club, and now a new story will begin. Yes, it's one of the most difficult moments for me." He said he did not want to leave this club. He said it's the club that he loves, and this is a moment he did not expect. He said, quote, "Last year I wanted to leave. This year I wanted to stay. That's why I'm so sad. It was like my blood ran cold. I was really sad. It was really difficult right up to now. I'm still trying to process it all. When I get home, I'll still feel bad. It will be even worse. I'm not ready for this."
Yeah, he did confirm that the sudden turn of events took him by surprise and everything was in place for him to stay. But then La Liga rules changed everything. He went on to admit that he did not want to stay last year, but this year he tried everything to ensure that he did stay. He said that a lot of things have gone through my head. I've still not come to terms with the reality of leaving this club now and changing my life, and we need to accept it and move forward. So the time when I made my debut, that was my dream come true, and everything that came later was amazing. I will always remember that moment where everything started. And those were the words of Lionel Messi.
Yeah, looking at the big change at the moment, he was making about £1.13 million a week with Barcelona. Now it is going to be per week €481,000 a week. It's a big drop. It's half of his pay.
How much is that again? 400?
£481,000, €481,000 a week with PSG.
Okay.
And his weekly wage was...
That's about... Wait, I'm trying to see how much that is in dirhams. That's more than 2 million dirhams.
A week, yeah.
Wow.
But it was 1.13 million pounds a week earlier, so it was 5 million dirhams a week before with Barcelona. So this man has to...
That's about 6.6 million dirhams.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So he has
That's a lot.
He has to think about budget cuts because his salary's halved.
Yeah.
So
that's why he's crying.
Yeah.
I would cry too.
If he had plans of buying a house a week, then yeah, it would have been very sad for him. But he had a very nice life in Barcelona. He did win lots of hearts and he did win lots of fans. But you have to understand Barcelona's point of view as well. Yeah. It's not easy to afford that much of a salary when fans are not coming into the stadiums. Business isn't the best of all at this stage, and to pay extortionate amounts to keep Messi on board is
costly.
Is very costly, and it's good for Lionel Messi that he stood his ground and didn't accept a low pay at a place that he knew were willing to pay him that much anyway. But he's going to be joining
But I
PSG.
feel like it's time to pass it on to someone else.
I think it's best to move on,
To
really.
move on, yeah.
Check out a new club, new
Yeah.
life. David Beckham did it. David Beckham lived his life to the
Yeah.
fullest, from Man United, jumping off to Real Madrid and then going off to LA Galaxy towards the end of his career. Just got to do it, man.
Yeah.
And check out a new city. I know
Yeah.
he's got homes everywhere, but might as well.
It's gonna be okay for sure. But yeah, the thing is, he's been part of Barcelona for the longest time ever. So that's really something that weighs on him. He's been, in fact, part of the club since he was 13 years old. That's when he joined the organization. So it was all he had known.
Yeah.
And a very difficult moment for him. Was in tears throughout the press conference. Hundreds of fans had gathered outside the Nou Camp, and several of Barcelona's first-team players were also in attendance. Andre Iniesta, who won the Champions League 4 times with Messi, tweeted, quote, "We shared magical moments and always stayed together. Imagining the club without you or being able to see you at the stadium with another shirt is difficult." Tributes also came pouring in from Javi Hernandez, a member of that legendary Barca midfield, saying, "I can only thank you for everything you've given us during these years. Whatever you do, I wish you the best." An end of an era there.
End of an era there. End of the show
There we
for
go.
the Majlis. So we'll be back again tomorrow morning. Bright and early. We'll continue the discussions with the biggest news headlines of the day. Thank you all for tuning in. If you'd like to be in touch with us, you can do so on the text lines 4215 and also DM us on Pulse 95 Radio. Give us a follow, give us a subscribe on the YouTube where we will be uploading the video podcast. But for the audio ones, where can we catch them?
You can catch them on the Spotify, SoundCloud, and Apple podcast pages. Just type Morning Majlis in the search bar. Thank you all for tuning in and joining us via the text lines today, and we'll see you tomorrow at 7 a.m. Until then, stay tuned to Pulse 95.
If you liked this episode of The Morning Majlis, drop a like and subscribe.
95.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram for all our daily updates and top stories.
Pulse